Hello everybody, welcome back to City Skylines, and today we're going to be building our first industrial area. Now, having industrial zones and buildings in your city is very important, as this is where most of your goods will be imported from and manufactured. And if you don't have goods coming in, you'll likely have a lot of buildings saying that they don't have enough goods, not enough resources, all that kind of stuff, which would usually come from industrial. So I start off my industrial layout by laying out the main road, and the main road is 8 lanes because typically in an industrial area, even if it's small, you're going to get a lot of traffic coming in and out. You're going to have people coming out of the city to export their goods and people coming from the industrial area sending them to the rest of the city. Because my industrial area, I like to keep them seaside, the first thing I do is lay out a whole selection of roads, different angles, and just in a way that I like it. And I'm going to use the grid created by them to place down a whole bunch of keys. All the grid really does is keep the keys even, so I can build them really nicely. Keys in themselves also do serve a purpose. Not only do they look nice, but they do provide a nice sort of spot where you can snap ports to. Because generally placing ports is pretty hard, and if you don't have move it, it's really hard to orient it properly. So I like just placing keys because everything is just so much more organized. Now you saw a second ago there I couldn't quite place that last road down, and that's because I hadn't updated the terrain yet. You can see there is still water there, and I extended the land while it was still on pause. So if you have something like that, just unpause your game quickly and let the water run off, because the land did displace water. If you're going to build the keys like I did, you will need the key anarchy mod, or else they will refuse to place on land. But a known bug if you're doing that, if you're building them on land, is like you saw a second ago there, and right now, is it has some terrain issues where it looks like it's not oriented properly. All you have to do is just delete the little segment and replace it after you've already adjusted most of the terrain, and it'll just fix itself just like that. It's pretty simple, but it can be quite annoying. And now I actually start placing buildings. What I'm doing right now is just having an idea of where I'm going to be putting my ports, and right now I'm putting down these nice, they're just blank slabs of concrete ports by Strict Toaster. He has some awesome content on YouTube, but he's also a pretty nice asset maker. I decided to change these later because there were some weird issues with how the cars and trucks were getting off of them. They would be like basically jumping over the ground, so I had to switch to a different port that you'll see later. And now I start building the roads. Generally, I like to keep my roads close to the keys because it's just more functional that way, and it keeps everything more neat because I don't like having my buildings lined up straight to the key. I like having a road there, so there's a sort of nice barrier between the actual ocean and when buildings start. And on the topic of roads, in industrial areas, you should try and keep your road layouts as efficient as possible because you don't want all those trucks and all those cars and just all those vehicles in general to get backed up, or you'll have just horrible traffic problems, especially because the trucks are so huge usually in that area. They take up a lot more space. And all that really means is that you should have just straight directional roads, no fancy curves or extra intersections. Just put roads where you really do need them. You can see here I put down these big tanks here, and the reason why is because I imagine that a lot of the stuff coming in would be natural gases or liquids like fuel, oil, that sort of stuff, but I don't actually want an oil industry in my city because it is, after all, a green city. Also, they do look pretty nice, and I like how large they are, and if the ships are coming in and this is the first thing they see, I think that's pretty nice. I don't really know how realistic this actually is, so let me know in the comments because I didn't really do my research. Now the next thing I do is put down my freight train terminal, and this is actually very crucial to an industrial area. This allows for a pretty quick export of goods as well as import. It does a pretty good double function, and I usually have 2 in my industrial cities, so this is just one. I like to have one near the port, so trucks coming straight off ships can go to the train if they want to. Now you saw there I put down this curved piece of track, and what it did is it created this little clipping area in between where the 2 tracks intersected. So I decided to put down some grass tufts just to cover that up a bit, and it does look much nicer. Pipes are pretty straightforward. It's the same thing that I did in my city services video, just sticking to the main roads and just trying to keep the pipes as organized as possible. Now the next thing I did is go ahead and create the Falcon 9 line. Yes, it rhymes. How wonderful. All this is a typical commuter line between the main terminal and the industrial area. I did want to go ahead and create it because I do expect a lot of people to be using it, since there will be quite a lot of jobs available in the industrial area, and it does pass through in a residential area, which is actually right now the only residential area in our city. So of course we're going to have a lot of people using it. For this line, I again chose a train by Biskokelhausen, if that is how I pronounce your name. I'm very sorry if I pronounced it wrong. It's this classic EMU, and I chose it because I really like how it's low profile. It doesn't look overly fancy like the modern bi-level trains or anything like that. So, yeah. I also think that it does fit nicely as a sort of industrial train. Now the next part is quite sped up, so just a bit of a warning again. I decided to leave it in though because I did want you guys to have an idea of what buildings I'm putting where. In summary, it's just a whole ton of warehouses. If you go to an industrial area in your city, you're going to notice that it's all just mostly warehouses, because that's what it is, industrial. It's just, they just store stuff. Some buildings produce stuff, but even the factories that produce stuff, they're still just big rectangular buildings similar to a warehouse. So that's basically all I went ahead and did. Something that I forgot to mention earlier that you saw me do there a second ago was turn the 90-degree corner into more of a smoother turn. And this is actually really important. Trucks are big. They'll have a hard time going 90 degrees. And the same thing with cars. So I really would recommend you guys to change any 90-degree corners where you can in your industrial area to an actual turn. Now you're going to see me place down this building quite a few times, and it's this distribution center made by Ivania, I'm pretty sure. It's really nice, the model is great, and the building is nice and clean and modern, and that's just what I want in my city. So I did place it down quite a few times. They're really easy to stick together and make it the size you want. So they're really perfect if you need to fit in some industrial buildings without them looking too industrial, I guess. And because I know this is probably too fast for a lot of you, if it's ever too fast, I'm pretty sure YouTube does have an option to slow a video down by up to 2 times, I'm pretty sure. So if it ever is going too fast, feel free to just slow it down if you need to see something in more detail, because it's all there, really. Now, as soon as I pressed play, I immediately got, as you can see, a ton of ships coming straight for my industrial area, as well as a few trains. And this is because I had a really high incoming demand in my city. There was a ton of buildings that needed stuff, but there was also an outgoing demand, which meant there were a lot of buildings that needed to ship stuff out. So, of course, this came in really handy. This industrial area, trucks, businesses immediately began flocking to here to either receive goods or send out goods. Now here I build another one of those warehouses with Ivania's buildings, and I just wanted to leave this to show you the flexibility of these buildings and just how I build them in general and how clean they turn out to look. So I'm just gonna shut up for now and just let you guys see what I'm doing. And now begins the more aesthetic part of the industrial area, just making it look better. And the first step I'm doing is using surface painter to paint in some pavement where I deem it necessary. And that's usually in some small but empty spaces near the quay, places near the ocean that typically you wouldn't want grass, otherwise it would become extremely soggy and unpleasant. Not only did I put the concrete because usually that's just how it is near waterfront industrial areas, but just industrial areas in general have concrete anywhere because it's a harder surface and there's a lot of storage almost anywhere, so if they ever need to put a truck or trailer somewhere, there's going to be pavement there. Now, the next thing I did I'm not too sure about, but I think I might leave it in because it can be important depending on the situation. Basically, all I did is connect my main road from the city to the main road in the industrial area. And this is just to provide trucks with a choice, because maybe getting to businesses that, for example, are right there next to the industrial area would be faster by this road than by the highway. But if it's faster for the truck to go on the highway and then back to downtown, then they'll have that choice. And it's good to have that variety of choices. If you ever get traffic, for example, on the highway, a traffic jam or something like that, because, it can happen if you, for example, get a sudden increase in your population, and you'll still have options for those trucks to get to where they need to go. And now I'm just continuing with this aesthetical portion of the industrial area, and you can see here I already switched to the river port, again by Avanya, I think, as are these props. All I'm doing is arranging them in a sort of pattern where I have a row and then I have a space in between, because theoretically there's still some sort of container stacker, going to be driving in between them, or a truck, for example, that the container needs to be loaded on. After that, I just put some decals to kind of show that wear in that area, because industrial areas are, of course, used a lot and by heavy machinery, so there is going to be some sort of wear on the surface especially. I do a yard just like this, but on a bigger scale near the other port. Pretty straightforward. It's nothing really that I need to cover that much, because it really just is a whole bunch of placing props. And that's it. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, because it does let me know how much you guys like my videos and how well I'm doing, if there's anything I need to improve. Leave a comment down below if there's something you'd like to say, or if there is something I need to improve. And hey, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe, because I do try to post weekly. That's it. Bye.
Mm-hmm.